I found the text message while Charlotte was in the shower. Not because I was snooping, I'm not that guy, never have been, but because her phone lit up on the kitchen counter while I was making coffee, and Mark's name flashed across the screen with a preview that made my stomach drop. Last night was incredible. When can I see you again? My hands didn't shake. That's what surprised me most. I just stood there, coffee pot in one hand, watching the screen go dark again, and felt something inside me go dark with it. Something that had been holding on, believing, trusting, just shut off. Like a breaker switch flipping in my chest. I put her phone back exactly where she'd left it and finished making my coffee. The water shut off upstairs. I heard Charlotte actually humming, as she got ready for another day of whatever the hell she did at that country club. Crown Ridge. The place she'd been spending every afternoon for the past 6 months, coming home with that glow that I'd stupidly convinced myself was from tennis lessons or spa treatments or whatever rich women did with their time. "Danny," she called down, "did you remember to pick up my dry cleaning?" "It's in the closet," I said. "You're a lifesaver." I wasn't, though. Not anymore. As I stood there in our kitchen, the kitchen in the house I'd bought with money she didn't know I had, I realized I'd spent 3 years being Charlotte's safety net, her convenience, her dirty little secret she was ashamed to introduce to her country club friends. 3 years of "Danny works with his hands," said with that apologetic smile, like I was something to be pitied. 3 years of watching her spend money on designer handbags and spa days while I supposedly scraped by on a mechanic's salary. The thing is, I am a mechanic. I do work with my hands, but I'm also sitting on a trust fund from my father that would make Charlotte's country club friends weep with envy. My father, God rest him, had built Crown Ridge Country Club from the ground up in 1982, along with his business partner, Richard Whitmore. When Dad died 2 years ago, I inherited his 50% stake. Richard's been running the place ever since, and we'd agreed to keep my ownership quiet. I liked the anonymity, liked being just Danny Pierce, the mechanic who could fix anything with an engine. But standing there with that text message burned into my brain, I realized anonymity was a luxury I could no longer afford. Charlotte came downstairs in white tennis skirt and a pink polo that probably cost more than most people's car payments. She looked perfect, like she always did. Blonde hair in a high ponytail, makeup flawless, not a single thing out of place. She'd been beautiful when I met her 4 years ago at a charity car wash I'd volunteered for. She'd been funny then, too. Real. Or maybe I'd just been too blind to see through it. "You look nice," I said, because that's what husbands say. "Thanks, babe." She grabbed her keys from the hook by the door, didn't even look at me. "I'll be home late. Board meeting for the fall gala." "Board meeting," I repeated. "At the country club. Where else?" She laughed, finally glancing my way. "Don't wait up. These things always run long." I wondered if Mark would be at this board meeting. I wondered if they'd slip away during the cocktail hour, find some empty massage room or office to— "Have a good day," I said instead. The door closed behind her. I waited until I heard her Mercedes pull out of the driveway, the Mercedes I'd bought her for our anniversary last year, that she'd barely thanked me for because it wasn't the exact color she wanted, before I picked up my phone and called Richard. "Danny!" Richard's voice boomed through the speaker. "What's going on, partner?" "I need you to arrange something for me," I said. "It's time everyone knew who really owns Crown Ridge." There was a pause. "You sure about this?" Never been more sure of anything in my life. "What happened?" "Charlotte's having an affair. Has been for months, from what I can tell. With someone at the club." Richard let out a low whistle. "Christ, Danny, I'm sorry." "Don't be. I'm not." "You're not?" "I'm angry," I said. "But I'm not sorry, because now I know exactly who she is, and I don't have to feel guilty about what I'm about to do. Which is? Ruin her perfect little world. My garage, my real workplace, Not the country club Charlotte didn't know I owned, sat on 3 acres just outside town. Pierce Automotive Restoration. I specialized in classic cars, the kind of vehicles that required patience, skill, and an understanding of machines that most modern mechanics had forgotten. I had 6 bays, 2 full-time employees, and a waiting list that stretched out 9 months. I wasn't rich from the mechanic shop, but I wasn't poor either. I made good money doing what I loved. But none of that mattered to Charlotte. To her, I was just a grease monkey who embarrassed her at dinner parties. I'd figured it out about a year ago when she stopped inviting me to events at Crown Ridge, started making excuses. You'd be bored. It's just a ladies' thing. You wouldn't know anyone there. Then the excuses became more cutting. Danny, you'd have to wear a suit. They're very particular about dress codes. And finally, the one that should have been my wake-up call. I don't think you'd fit in with that crowd. I'd let it slide. Told myself marriage was about compromise, about giving each other space. I buried myself in my work, restored a 1967 Shelby GT500 that sold at auction for $200,000, and pretended everything was fine. But everything wasn't fine. My wife was sleeping with someone else, and I was done pretending. Jake Morrison, my lead mechanic, looked up from the engine he was rebuilding when I walked into the shop that morning. He was 26, covered in tattoos, and had been with me since I opened the place 3 years ago. Kid had a gift for diagnosis, could listen to an engine for 30 seconds and tell you exactly what was wrong with it. "Boss," he said, wiping his hands on a rag, "you look like hell." "Rough morning. Charlotte?" I must have made a face because Jake held up his hands. "Sorry, not my business." "It's fine." I grabbed my coveralls from the hook and started pulling them on. "I need you to handle things here for the next few days. I've got some personal stuff to deal with." "Everything okay?" "It will be." I spent the rest of that morning working on a 1972 Chevelle that belonged to a lawyer from Boston. The car had been sitting in a barn for 30 years, and the engine was seized solid. It was the kind of project that required complete focus, the kind of work where you could lose yourself in the mechanical puzzle of it all and forget that your marriage was a smoking crater, but I couldn't forget. Every time I tried to focus on the Chevelle, I saw that text message. Last night was incredible. Where had Charlotte been last night? I tried to remember. She'd said dinner with friends, Michelle and Susan, the 2 women she'd been thick with since joining Crown Ridge. I'd been at the shop late, working on an emergency repair for a client, hadn't gotten home until almost 11. Charlotte had been in bed already, or pretending to be. How long had this been going on? Months? Weeks? Did it even matter? My phone buzzed. "Richard." "It's done," he said. "I've scheduled an emergency board meeting for Friday night, 7 o'clock. I'll announce the ownership structure, introduce you as my partner, the whole 9 yards. "Friday," I said. That gave me 3 days. 3 days to prepare for the moment when Charlotte's entire world turned inside out. "You want to tell me what your endgame is here?" Richard asked. "I want her to understand what she threw away. I want her to realize that while she was busy being ashamed of me, I was the one person in her life who actually had substance, real money, real value. And then what? And then I walk away. Let her live with the knowledge that she destroyed the best thing that ever happened to her." Richard was quiet for a moment. "Be careful, Danny. Revenge has a way of consuming the person seeking it." "I'll be fine." "I hope so. Your father wouldn't want you to lose yourself over this." My father, Thomas Pierce, the man who'd built an empire from nothing and stayed humble his entire life. He'd worked construction for 15 years, saved every penny, and finally bought the land that would become Crown Ridge. He'd drawn up the plans himself, hammered nails alongside the crew, and opened the place in 1982 with nothing but hope and determination. And Charlotte had never even met him. He'd died 3 months before our wedding. Sudden heart attack while working in his garden. Charlotte had offered sympathy, but I'd seen the relief in her eyes when she realized we wouldn't have to explain to her friends why my father was a man who still did his own yard work at 70. "I know what I'm doing," I told Richard. "I hope you're right. I'm not proud of what I did next, but I'm not ashamed of it either. When someone betrays you, you have the right to know the full extent of that betrayal." That's what I told myself anyway as I installed tracking software on Charlotte's phone that night while she slept. The app was simple. It mirrored everything: texts, calls, location data, even photos. I paid for the premium version that wouldn't show up in her battery usage or app list. Within 24 hours, I knew everything. Mark Hastings, 33 years old, investment banker at Wells Fargo, divorced 6 months ago, member of Crown Ridge for 7 years. His profile on the club's website showed a man with perfect teeth and expensive suits, the kind of guy who'd never had grease under his fingernails or calluses on his palms, the kind of guy Charlotte thought she deserved. The texts between them went back 4 months. 4 months of "I miss you" and "can't stop thinking about you" and "he doesn't understand me like you do." 4 months of planning meetups and stolen afternoons and lies. So many lies. They met at Crown Ridge mostly, sometimes at Mark's condo downtown on Beacon Street, once at a hotel in Portsmouth when Charlotte told me she was visiting her college roommate Amy in Portland. I'd sent Amy flowers that weekend, some excuse about Charlotte mentioning Amy was feeling down. Amy had texted back confused, saying she hadn't seen Charlotte in over a year, and she was doing fine. I'd made up something about crossed wires. The worst part wasn't the affair itself. It was reading what Charlotte said about me. How I was safe but boring. How she'd married me because I was stable and reliable, but she'd never felt that spark. How Mark made her feel alive and dangerous and desired. How she'd settled for me because she was approaching 30 and her friends were all getting married and she didn't want to be left behind. I was a convenience, a placeholder husband until something better came along, an insurance policy, except I wasn't what she thought I was, and something better wasn't coming along for her. Something much, much worse was. I sat in my garage Wednesday night, laptop open, reading through 4 months of my wife's betrayal, and I felt that darkness inside me grow colder, harder. I wasn't sad anymore. I was calculating. There was a text from last Tuesday. "Danny's working late again. Meet at your place at 8? Last Tuesday, I'd told Charlotte I had to fix a transmission for a client who needed his car for a business trip. It was true. I had been working late. But I'd finished by 7:30 and come home to an empty house. She'd left a note saying she was getting drinks with Michelle. Another text from 3 weeks ago. "Can't believe I'm stuck going to his shop's anniversary party tonight. 3 years of watching him play with cars." I remembered that night. I'd thrown a small party for the garage's 3rd anniversary, invited all my employees and their families, had it catered with barbecue from the best place in town. Charlotte had shown up an hour late in a dress more appropriate for a cocktail party than a casual garage celebration, spent the entire time on her phone, and left after 45 minutes claiming she had a headache. She'd texted Mark the whole time. "This is so embarrassing. Everyone here is so working class. I don't fit in with these people." Mark had responded, "You deserve better than this life. You deserve champagne, not cheap beer." Charlotte, I know, God, I know I made such a mistake. I'd bought Cristal for that party, 2 cases of it, because I knew Charlotte liked champagne and I wanted her to enjoy herself. She hadn't touched a single glass. There were photos, too. Charlotte and Mark at restaurants I recognized, at his condo, even one taken in what looked like a massage room at Crown Ridge. They weren't explicit, just intimate. Her laughing at something he said, him kissing her cheek, the 2 of them holding hands across a dinner table. They looked happy together, genuinely happy. And that hurt more than anything else. Not because I still loved Charlotte, but because she'd never looked that happy with me. Not even in the beginning. Charlotte came home around 9 Wednesday night, flushed and happy, probably fresh from Mark's bed. She kissed my cheek, actually kissed my cheek, and asked about my day. Fixed a transmission, I said. You? Oh, you know. Tennis with Susan. Lunch at the club. The usual. The usual, I echoed, watching her pour herself a glass of wine from the bottle I'd opened last night. How's Susan? She's good. Her daughter got into Princeton early decision. She's over the moon. That's great. Charlotte settled on the couch, scrolling through her phone, probably reading texts from Mark right in front of me. The audacity was almost impressive. Or maybe she just didn't think I was smart enough to catch on. Hey, I said casually. That gala you mentioned, the fall thing. When is that exactly? October 15th. Why? Just curious. It's at the club, right? Obviously. Maybe I could come with you this year. Charlotte's face did something complicated. A flash of panic quickly smoothed into practiced patience. Danny, I don't think that's a good idea. Why not? I'm your husband. Don't people expect to see us together at events? It's not that simple. These events they're networking opportunities for me. The people there are very particular about what? About me being a mechanic? That's not what I was going to say. But it's what you meant. She set down her wine glass, and I could see her carefully constructing her response. Danny, you know I support what you do. I think it's great that you have a passion for cars. But the people at Crown Ridge, they're very focused on a certain kind of success. Finance, law, medicine. They don't really understand blue-collar work. Blue-collar, I repeated. Is that what I am to you? You're twisting my words. Am I? Because it sounds like you're ashamed of me. I'm not ashamed. I just think you'd be more comfortable if what? If I stayed home while you went out and pretended you weren't married to a grease monkey? Charlotte's face flushed. You're being ridiculous. Show me your phone. The color drained from her face. What? Your phone. Show it to me right now. No. Why not, if you have nothing to hide? Because it's invasive and controlling and I don't have to prove anything to you. She grabbed her purse from the counter. I'm sleeping in the guest room tonight. This conversation is over. She stormed upstairs. I heard the guest room door slam, and I smiled because now she knew that I knew, and the game had officially begun. Thursday morning, Charlotte was gone before I woke up. She left a note on the kitchen counter. Staying at Michelle's for a few days. Need some space to think. I crumpled the note and threw it in the trash. She wasn't staying at Michelle's. Michelle lived 30 minutes away in a split level with her husband and 3 kids. There was no way Charlotte was crashing on their couch. She was probably at Mark's condo, curled up in his bed, telling him about her controlling, suspicious husband who had the audacity to question her. Let her run. Let her think she was safe. I spent Thursday at the garage working on the Chevelle and planning my next moves. Richard called twice to confirm details for Friday's board meeting. Everything was set. 7 o'clock, full board in attendance, plus several major club donors and committee chairs. It would be packed. Jake noticed my mood. You're smiling, he said around lunchtime. That's either really good or really bad. Tomorrow's going to be interesting, I said. That's definitely the really bad smile. Depends on your perspective. Boss, whatever you're planning, just make sure you can live with it afterwards. Revenge feels good in the moment, but this isn't revenge, I said. This is truth. There's a difference. If you say so. That afternoon, I got a call from an unknown number. When I answered, a woman's voice said, "Is this Danny Pierce?" Who's asking? My name is Michelle Brennan. I'm Charlotte's friend from the club. My hand tightened on the phone. What can I do for you, Michelle? Charlotte's staying with me for a few days. She's pretty upset. She says you accused her of having an affair. I didn't accuse her. I asked to see her phone. She refused. Because you were being paranoid and controlling. Was I? Silence on the other end. Then, look, I don't know what's going on between you two, but Charlotte is my friend. I'm calling to ask you to back off. Give her some space. She's not staying with you, I said calmly. She's staying with Mark Hastings at his condo on Beacon Street. Has been since she left yesterday morning. More silence. Then, quieter. How do you know that? Because I know everything, Michelle. I know about the affair. I know it's been going on for 4 months. I know they meet at the club, at his place, sometimes at hotels. I know what she says about me behind my back. I know all of it. I don't... Did you know? About Mark? I suspected something, Michelle admitted. But Charlotte kept saying they were just friends. I wanted to believe her. She's been lying to everyone, including you. What are you going to do? That's between Charlotte and me. Danny, please don't do anything crazy. Whatever problems you guys are having, they can be worked out. Marriage counseling, therapy. Some things can't be fixed, Michelle. But I appreciate the call. I hung up before she could respond. That evening, Charlotte texted me. Michelle told me what you said. We need to talk. I didn't respond. She tried calling. I didn't answer. Another text. Danny, please, let me explain. And another. It's not what you think. And another. Mark and I are just friends. You're reading too much into things. I turned off my phone and went to bed early. Tomorrow was going to be a long day. Friday arrived like Judgment Day. I woke up at 6, went for a run, showered, and put on the Tom Ford suit I'd bought specifically for tonight. Custom-tailored, midnight blue, the kind of suit that cost $5,000. I looked at myself in the mirror and barely recognized the man staring back. Gone was Danny Pierce, the mechanic in his work coveralls. This was someone different, someone with power, someone dangerous. I got to the garage at 8 and spent the day working on routine maintenance, oil changes, brake jobs, nothing that required intense focus. I needed to stay calm, centered, ready. Jake kept giving me looks but didn't ask questions. He knew something was happening, and he knew better than to push. At 5 o'clock, I closed up the shop, went home, and changed into my suit. By 6:30, I was in my truck, not the work F-150, but the fully restored 1969 Ford Bronco I kept for special occasions. Powder blue with white top, pristine condition, worth about 80 grand. I'd restored it myself over the course of a year, every bolt and bearing carefully chosen, every inch of paint perfectly applied. I arrived at Crown Ridge at 6:50. The sun was setting over the golf course, painting everything gold and amber. The clubhouse was a sprawling Georgian-style mansion my father had designed himself, all white columns and manicured gardens, and the kind of elegance that whispered old money. As I pulled up to the valet station, the kid working it did a double take. "Sir," he said hesitantly, "can I help you?" "I'm here for the board meeting," I said, tossing him the keys. "Your name?" "Danny Pierce." The kid's eyes went wide. He recognized the name, even if he didn't know the face. "Right away, Mr. Pierce, welcome." I walked through the front entrance like I owned the place. Because I did. The lobby was all marble floors and crystal chandeliers, oil paintings of past club presidents on the walls, the kind of old-money elegance that impressed people who cared about that sort of thing. Members milled about in business, casual, drinks in hand, laughing their carefully practiced laughs. I recognized some of them from Charlotte's social media posts, the people she'd rather be seen with than her own husband. And there she was, Charlotte, standing by the bar with Michelle and Susan, wearing a black dress that probably cost $1,500. Her back was to me, but I could see the tension in her shoulders. Michelle had clearly told her I knew about Mark. Richard found me first. "Danny," he gripped my hand firmly. "You ready for this? Let's do it. You know this is going to blow up her entire world, right? That's the idea. And you're okay with that?" "She blew up mine first. Fair's fair." Richard studied my face for a long moment. "All right then. Let's go ruin a marriage." The board meeting was held in the Oak Room, a private dining area with walls lined with books and a massive stone fireplace. 25 people were already seated when Richard and I walked in. Board members, major donors, committee chairs, and a handful of club officers. Charlotte was there, sitting near the front with her friends, and her face went sheet white when she saw me in my suit, standing next to Richard. Mark was there too, 3 seats away from Charlotte, looking comfortable in his expensive suit and designer glasses. He didn't recognize me. Why would he? He'd never bothered to learn what Charlotte's husband looked like. "Ladies and gentlemen," Richard began, standing at the head of the table, "thank you all for coming on short notice. I know this is irregular, scheduling an emergency meeting on a Friday evening, but there's been a significant development regarding the club's ownership that requires immediate disclosure." Murmurs rippled through the room. Charlotte was staring at me, and I could see the wheels turning in her head, trying to figure out what the hell I was doing there. "As many of you know," Richard continued, "Crown Ridge was founded in 1982 by myself and Thomas Pierce. Thomas was more than my business partner. He was my best friend. We built this place from the ground up, literally. Thomas drew the blueprints himself, worked construction alongside the crew, poured his heart and soul into every brick and board. He was a remarkable man." I saw Charlotte's face change as she started to put the pieces together. "Thomas passed away 2 years ago," Richard said. "But his legacy lives on, not just in this club, but in his son." He gestured to me. "I'd like to formally introduce my business partner and co-owner of Crown Ridge Country Club, Danny Pierce." The silence was absolute. Charlotte looked like she might faint. Her face had gone from white to gray, and she gripped the edge of the table like it was the only thing keeping her upright. "Danny owns 50% of this club," Richard said. "He inherited his father's stake upon Thomas's passing. We've kept his ownership quiet at his request. Danny preferred to maintain his privacy and continue his work as an automotive restoration specialist without the complications that come with being known as a wealthy club owner. But circumstances have changed, and moving forward, Danny will be taking a much more active role in Crown Ridge's operations and management." Mark raised his hand, and I watched his face carefully. "I'm sorry. Did you say Danny Pierce?" "That's right." "Charlotte's husband?" His voice had gone up half an octave, and I could see the panic starting to creep in. "The very same," Richard said cheerfully. Every head in the room swiveled to look at Charlotte, who looked like she wanted the earth to open up and swallow her whole. "Now," Richard said, glancing at his notes, "let's discuss the agenda. First item, the fall gala budget. Danny, you want to weigh in on this?" I stood up, and all eyes turned to me. "Actually, before we get to the budget, I'd like to make a few announcements of my own." "The floor is yours," Richard said, sitting down. I walked to the front of the room, taking my time, letting the tension build. Charlotte's eyes were locked on me, pleading silently. I ignored her. "First," I said, "I want to address the elephant in the room. Yes, I'm Charlotte's husband. Yes, I've kept my ownership of this club quiet for 2 years. And yes, most of you probably thought I was just some mechanic who married above his station." A few uncomfortable laughs rippled through the room. "The truth is, I am a mechanic. I run Pierce Automotive Restoration, and I'm damn good at what I do. I've restored some of the most valuable classic cars in New England. My shop has a 9-month waiting list. I make excellent money doing work I love." I paused. "But I also inherited $11 million from my father, along with his 50% stake in this club. So yeah, I work on cars, but I don't have to." Charlotte had tears running down her face now, mascara leaving black trails on her cheeks. "Second," I continued, "I want to talk about membership standards. Crown Ridge has always prided itself on being a place where successful people can gather, network, and enjoy the finer things in life. But somewhere along the way, we've confused success with appearance. We've started judging people by their job titles instead of their character. And that needs to change." I looked directly at Mark. Take Mark Hastings, for example. Investment banker. Nice suit. Drives a BMW. Member here for 7 years. On paper, he's exactly the kind of person Crown Ridge wants. But character isn't about job titles or cars or clothes. Character is about integrity, about honesty, about respecting other people's marriages. Mark's face drained of color. He knew. So effective immediately, I said. I'm proposing a new membership guideline. Anyone found to be engaging in an affair with another member's spouse will have their membership permanently revoked. No exceptions, no second chances. That's ridiculous, Mark said, standing up. You can't police people's personal lives. I can when those personal lives involve my wife, I said calmly. Care to explain to everyone here what you've been doing for the past 4 months, Mark? I don't know what you're talking about. Really? Because I have 4 months of text messages between you and Charlotte. Messages where you discuss meeting at your condo. Messages where you make plans to spend afternoons together while I'm at work. Messages where my wife tells you how boring and embarrassing I am. I pulled out my phone. Would you like me to read some of them aloud? Danny, please, Charlotte whispered. How about this one from 3 weeks ago? I said, reading from my phone. Can't believe I'm stuck going to his shop's anniversary party tonight. 3 years of watching him play with cars. And your response? You deserve better than this life. You deserve champagne, not cheap beer. I served Cristal at that party, by the way. 2 cases of it. Charlotte didn't touch a single glass. The room was silent except for Charlotte's quiet crying. Or this one from last month, I continued. He asked if he could come to the fall gala with me. I had to make up an excuse about it being a work thing. Can you imagine him here in one of his flannel shirts, talking to everyone about carburetors? That's a direct quote. From my wife. About me. That's enough, Richard said quietly. Danny, you've made your point. Have I? I looked around the room at all these people who'd never given me a second thought, who'd dismissed me as Charlotte's blue-collar husband, who'd judged me without knowing a damn thing about me. Because I don't think I have. I think everyone here needs to understand exactly what happened. My wife, Charlotte Pierce, has been having an affair with Mark Hastings for 4 months. They've been meeting at this club, the club I own, right under my nose, while Charlotte went home every night and lied to my face. I'm sorry, Charlotte sobbed. Danny, I'm so sorry. You're sorry you got caught, I said. There's a difference. I turned back to the board. I'm calling for an immediate vote on Mark Hastings' membership. All in favor of permanent revocation? 20 hands went up, including Charlotte's friends, Michelle and Susan. Motion carries, Richard said. Mark, you have 24 hours to settle any outstanding dues and remove your personal items from your locker. After that, you're banned from the property. Mark stood up, his face purple with rage. This is bullshit. You can't do this. Actually, I can, I said. I own this place. Get out. He stormed toward the door, then stopped and turned back to Charlotte. You said he was nobody. You said he was just some mechanic who'd never amount to anything. Don't, Charlotte whispered. You told me he was boring and poor and that you only married him because you were desperate. You told me he was nothing. That's enough, I said. But Mark wasn't done. You know what the really pathetic part is? I didn't even like you that much. You were just available, easy, a fun distraction. Charlotte's face crumpled, and for a moment I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. Get out, Richard said, standing up. Now, before I call security. Mark left, slamming the door behind him. The room sat in uncomfortable silence. Finally, Susan spoke up. Charlotte, honey, maybe you should go. Charlotte stood on shaking legs. She looked at me one last time, her face destroyed, mascara everywhere, her perfect facade shattered. Danny, can we please talk? There's nothing to talk about. I made a mistake, I know I did, but we can work through this. Marriage counseling, therapy, whatever you want. What I want is a divorce. She flinched like I'd slapped her. Don't say that. It's the truth. File the papers. We're done. Charlotte stumbled out of the room, and Michelle and Susan followed her. I could hear her sobbing in the hallway. Richard cleared his throat. Well, that was dramatic. Should we table the budget discussion for next week? A few nervous laughs echoed through the room. One more thing, I said. For those of you who don't know me, who've never bothered to learn anything about me beyond the fact that I work on cars, I'd like to invite you to visit my shop. Pierce Automotive Restoration, Route 9, just outside town. Come see what I do. Come see what real craftsmanship looks like. Come see that success isn't about job titles or designer suits. It's about doing something you love and doing it better than anyone else. I grabbed my jacket from the back of my chair. Meeting adjourned. I didn't go home that night. Couldn't stomach the thought of being in the house I'd shared with Charlotte, surrounded by reminders of a marriage that had been a lie. Instead, I drove to my shop, unlocked the door, and sat in my office drinking whiskey straight from the bottle. Jake had left a note on my desk. Boss, heard what happened from my cousin who works valet at Crown Ridge. Don't know if this helps, but you did the right thing. See you Monday. I wasn't sure I'd done the right thing. Destroying Charlotte publicly, exposing Mark, turning their affair into entertainment for Crown Ridge's board members, none of that felt particularly righteous. It felt ugly. Necessary, maybe, but ugly. My phone buzzed. 17 missed calls from Charlotte, 23 text messages. I scrolled through them. Please come home, we need to talk. I know I hurt you, I know I don't deserve forgiveness, but please give me a chance to explain. Mark didn't mean those things he said, he was just angry. I love you, Danny. I've always loved you. I'm not leaving until you come home and talk to me. I turned off my phone and poured another drink. Around midnight, I heard someone knocking on the shop's front door. I ignored it. The knocking continued, more insistent now. Finally, I walked out to the bay and saw Charlotte standing outside in the rain, still in her black dress from the meeting, soaked to the skin. I opened the door. What are you doing here? You wouldn't answer your phone. That should tell you something. Danny, please, just 5 minutes. That's all I'm asking. I stepped aside and let her in. She looked terrible, makeup smeared, hair plastered to her head, shivering in her wet dress. Part of me wanted to offer her a towel or a jacket. The other part wanted to watch her suffer. 5 minutes, I said. She wrapped her arms around herself. Whether from cold or anxiety, I couldn't tell. I know you hate me right now. I know what I did was unforgivable. But I need you to understand that I never meant for any of this to happen. You never meant to have an affair for 4 months? You never meant to lie to me every single day? You never meant to tell your lover how embarrassing and boring I was? I was confused, lost. I didn't know who I was or what I wanted. So you decided to figure it out by sleeping with Mark? It wasn't about Mark. It was about me feeling invisible, feeling like I didn't matter. You felt invisible? I laughed, but there was no humor in it. Charlotte, I gave you everything. I bought you that house. I bought you that car. I paid for your country club membership, your spa days, your shopping trips. I supported every single thing you wanted to do, and you felt invisible? That's not what I meant. Then what did you mean? She was crying now, tears mixing with rainwater. I meant that I felt like I was just your wife, just Charlotte, who married the mechanic. I didn't have my own identity, my own accomplishments. Everyone at the club had careers or volunteer positions or something that made them special. I was just the woman who showed up in tennis clothes and pretended to fit in. So get a job, find a volunteer position, do something that makes you feel fulfilled. Don't destroy our marriage because you're bored. It wasn't about being bored. It was about feeling like I'd settled, like I'd chosen safety over passion. You did settle, I said. You settled for what you thought was a mechanic making $50,000 a year instead of holding out for some investment banker making $200,000. Turns out you married someone worth $12 million who could have given you any life you wanted, but you never bothered to ask. You just assumed. I know. I know I was stupid and shallow and wrong, but Danny, we can fix this. We can go to counseling. We can work through it. No, we can't. Why not? Because I don't love you anymore, I said simply. That's the truth, Charlotte. Whatever I felt for you died when I read those texts. When I saw how little respect you had for me. When I realized you married me as a backup plan. That's not true, isn't it? You said yourself you felt like you'd settled. You chose me because I was safe and stable, and you were almost 30 and all your friends were getting married. I was convenient. She didn't deny it. So no, I continued. We're not going to counseling. We're not going to work through it. You're going to file for divorce, and we're going to go our separate ways. What about the house? Keep it. It's in my name, but I'll sign it over to you. Her eyes widened. You'd do that? I don't want it. Too many bad memories. Find yourself a good lawyer, draw up a fair settlement, and let's end this as cleanly as possible. I don't understand. After everything I did, after I humiliated you, why are you being generous? Because I'm not you, I said. I'm not going to be petty or vindictive. I'm not going to drag you through the mud just because I can. I'm going to be the bigger person and walk away. Charlotte stood there, water dripping onto my garage floor, looking more lost than I'd ever seen her. I really did love you, you know. Maybe not the way you deserved, maybe not enough, but I did love you. I believe you. In your own way, you did love me. It just wasn't the kind of love that lasts. She nodded slowly. I should go. Yeah. She walked to the door, then paused. For what it's worth, I'm sorry. Not just for getting caught. For all of it. You deserved better than what I gave you. I know. She left, and I watched through the window as she got into her Mercedes and drove away. Then I went back to my office, finished the whiskey, and fell asleep at my desk. The next morning, I woke up with a headache and a missed call from Richard. I called him back. How are you holding up? He asked. I've been better. That was quite a performance last night. Too much? Maybe a little. But effective. The whole club's talking about it. Half of them think you're a hero for standing up to a cheater. The other half thinks you're a vindictive asshole. Which half are you in? Honestly, I'm in the that was messy as hell, but I understand why you did it camp. Fair enough. Charlotte called me this morning, asked if there was any way to undo what happened, any way to keep Mark's membership revocation quiet. What did you tell her? I told her it was too late. The board voted. It's done. Mark's banned permanently and everyone knows why. Good. Danny, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest with me. Okay. Are you doing this because you want justice? Or are you doing this because you want revenge? I thought about that for a long moment. Maybe both. Does it matter? It matters because justice is about making things right. Revenge is about making yourself feel better. And revenge has a way of eating people alive. I'll keep that in mind. I'm serious. Your father built this club because he wanted to create something positive, something that brought people together. Don't let your anger turn it into something ugly. I won't. I hope not. Because right now, you're walking a very fine line. He hung up, and I sat there thinking about what he'd said. Was I being vindictive? Probably. Was I enjoying Charlotte's pain? Maybe a little. Did that make me a bad person? I didn't know anymore. I spent Saturday and Sunday at the shop, working on the Chevelle and avoiding my phone. Charlotte called 6 more times. I didn't answer. My sister Sophia called too, probably having heard about the drama through the town's gossip network. I didn't answer that either. By Monday morning, the story had spread beyond Crown Ridge. The local newspaper ran an article. Local mechanic revealed as secret millionaire club owner, exposes wife's affair. They'd gotten quotes from unnamed sources at the board meeting, describing the whole sordid scene in embarrassing detail. Jake showed me the article when I got to the shop. You're famous, boss. Great. There's already been 3 reporters calling this morning. They want interviews. Tell them no. Already did, but they're persistent. One of them is waiting in the parking lot. I looked out the window and saw a woman with a camera standing by a Channel 7 news van. Christ. You want me to tell her to leave? I'll handle it. I walked outside, and the reporter immediately started toward me. Mr. Pierce, can I ask you a few questions about what happened at Crown Ridge on Friday? No comment. Is it true your wife was having an affair with another member? No comment. Is it true you're worth $12 million? Lady, I'm trying to run a business here. I don't have time for this. Just a few questions, Mr. Pierce. The public has a right to know. The public doesn't have a right to know anything about my personal life. Now please leave, or I'll call the police for trespassing. She backed off, but I knew she'd be back. They always came back. Inside the shop, Jake was grinning. You handled that well. I hate reporters. Join the club. Or wait, you already own the club. Not funny. Little bit funny. Despite everything, I smiled. Jake had a way of cutting through the bullshit and keeping me grounded. I needed that right now. The week passed slowly. I worked on cars during the day and avoided my house at night, usually sleeping at the shop or driving around town until I was too tired to think. Charlotte stopped calling after a few days, but she sent one final text. My lawyer will be in touch with papers. I'll make sure everything is fair. I'm sorry, Danny, for everything. I didn't respond. By Thursday, the media attention had died down. A bigger scandal had emerged. Some state senator caught embezzling funds, and I was yesterday's news. Thank God for corrupt politicians. Richard called that afternoon. Board wants to meet with you tomorrow. Nothing formal, just to check in. About what? About your plans for the club moving forward. Some members are concerned about the drama. Want to make sure you're not going to turn Crown Ridge into your personal revenge playground. Tell them I have no plans to change anything. You're still running day-to-day operations. I'm just a silent partner who got briefly unsilent. I'll tell them, but Danny, you need to show your face. Come to the meeting, reassure people, be the bigger person you claimed you wanted to be. Fine. What time? 6 o'clock. And Danny? Wear the suit. Show them you belong. Friday evening, I put on the Tom Ford suit again and drove to Crown Ridge. The parking lot was fuller than I expected. Apparently, word had gotten out about the meeting, and members were curious to see if more drama would unfold. It wouldn't. I was done with drama, done with revenge. I just wanted to move on with my life. The board was waiting in the Oak Room when I arrived. Richard sat at the head of the table, and the other members were scattered around. James Whitmore, Patricia Chen, Robert Sullivan, and about 15 others whose names I barely remembered. Danny, Richard said, standing to shake my hand. Thanks for coming. Please have a seat. I sat at the opposite end of the table, directly across from Richard. Every eye in the room was on me. First, Richard began, I want to thank everyone for being here on short notice. As you all know, last Friday's meeting was unconventional. Things were said, decisions were made, and I think it's important that we address the elephant in the room. Which elephant? Patricia asked dryly. There were several. A few nervous laughs rippled through the room. The elephant, Richard continued, is whether Danny's involvement in club operations is going to be positive or negative. Some members have expressed concern that personal drama might affect the club's reputation. Others have expressed support for Danny's handling of a difficult situation. So, Danny, the floor is yours. Tell us your plans. I stood up, straightening my tie. My plans are simple. I have no intention of changing how Crown Ridge operates. Richard has done an excellent job managing this club for 2 years since my father passed, and I trust him to continue doing so. I will attend board meetings when necessary, but I'm not interested in day-to-day management. What about the drama from last Friday? James asked. What about your wife? My soon-to-be ex-wife, I corrected. Charlotte and I are divorcing. That's between us. It has nothing to do with this club or its members. But you aired your dirty laundry in front of the entire board, Patricia said. You humiliated your wife publicly. Some members are concerned that kind of behavior reflects poorly on Crown Ridge. You're right, I said. I handled things poorly. I was angry and hurt, and I let my emotions get the better of me. I shouldn't have made my personal problems public. For that I apologize. The room was silent. However, I continued, I don't apologize for exposing Mark Hastings. He was having an affair with a member's spouse. That violates every principle of respect and integrity this club is supposed to stand for. His membership revocation was justified. What if other members have had affairs? Robert asked. Are you going to launch a crusade against adultery? No. What people do in their private lives is their business. But when someone uses this club, my club, as a meeting place for an affair, that becomes my business. Mark and Charlotte were meeting here regularly, using the facilities I own to betray me. That's not acceptable. Fair enough, James said. So moving forward, what's your vision for Crown Ridge? My father built this place because he believed in creating something beautiful, something that would last, somewhere people could come together and enjoy the finer things in life. That vision hasn't changed. I want Crown Ridge to be the best club in New England. I want members to feel proud to be here, and I want to honor my father's legacy. That's a nice speech, Patricia said. But what does it mean practically? It means I'm approving the spa expansion Richard proposed. It means I'm investing in updating our golf course irrigation system. It means I'm committed to making this club better, not tearing it down because of personal grudges. Richard smiled. The board voted last month to table the spa expansion due to cost concerns. Are you saying you'll personally fund it? If necessary, yes. Murmurs rippled through the room. The spa will cost approximately $2 million, Richard said. That's a significant investment. I can afford it, and I think it's worth it. Our female members have been asking for better facilities for years. Let's give them what they want. Patricia leaned forward. Mr. Pierce, I'll be honest. When you walked in here last Friday, I thought you were going to be a problem. I thought you were going to turn this club into your personal kingdom. But hearing you now, seeing your commitment to your father's vision, I think I misjudged you. I appreciate that. However, she continued, I still think your behavior last Friday was inappropriate. Necessary, perhaps, but inappropriate. Can you assure us that kind of public spectacle won't happen again? You have my word. My personal life and this club are now completely separate. Then I think we're good here, James said. All in favor of accepting Danny's plan moving forward? Every hand went up. Motion carries, Richard said. Welcome aboard, partner. The meeting broke up, and several members came over to shake my hand and welcome me officially to the board. Patricia pulled me aside. I knew your father, she said quietly. He was a good man, humble, hardworking, kind. I see a lot of him in you. Thank you. Don't let anger poison that. Don't let what Charlotte did turn you into someone your father wouldn't recognize. I'm trying not to. Try harder. You've been given a second chance here. Don't waste it on bitterness. She walked away, and I stood there thinking about her words. She was right. I was standing at a crossroads. I could continue down the path of anger and revenge, or I could choose to be better. To honor my father's memory by being the kind of man he raised me to be. I chose better. Charlotte's lawyer sent the divorce papers 3 weeks later. True to her word, Charlotte was being fair. She wanted the house and her car. Everything else, savings accounts, investments, the club ownership, stayed with me. No alimony, clean split. I signed the papers the same day and sent them back. My lawyer called me that afternoon. Danny, you know you're being way too generous, right? You could easily claim the house. You paid for it. It's in your name. I don't want it. And the car? That Mercedes is worth $70,000. She needs transportation. Let her have it. You're making this too easy for her. Maybe. Or maybe I'm making it easy for me. The faster this is over, the faster I can move on. Suit yourself. Papers should be finalized within 30 days. Good. I hung up and went back to work on a 1969 Camaro that needed a complete transmission rebuild. The work was meditative, focusing my mind on bolts and gears instead of failed marriages and broken trust. Jake wandered over around lunchtime. Heard you signed the papers. News travels fast. Small town, everyone knows everything. He leaned against the workbench. You doing okay? Yeah, actually, I feel lighter. That's good. Means you're healing. Maybe. Definitely. You've been different the last couple weeks. Less angry, more like yourself. I was pretty angry for a while there, wasn't I? Understatement of the century. But you had a right to be. Your wife cheated on you, lied to you, made you feel like you weren't good enough. That's messed up. Yeah, but I let it consume me. I turned into someone I didn't recognize. And now? Now I'm just trying to be me again. Danny Pierce, mechanic, club owner, regular guy who likes working with his hands. That's all you ever were, boss. Charlotte just couldn't see it. Her loss. Damn right. The divorce was finalized 32 days later. I got the notification via email while I was test driving a restored 1970 Dodge Charger. The car ran beautifully. Smooth acceleration, perfect handling, engine purring like a kitten. I should have been celebrating the successful restoration. Instead, I pulled over and stared at the email. Your marriage to Charlotte Marie Pierce has been officially dissolved by the state of Massachusetts. All terms of the settlement agreement have been accepted. You are now legally divorced. I sat there on the side of the road, engine idling, feeling absolutely nothing. No sadness, no relief, just emptiness. My phone buzzed. Text from Charlotte. Got the notice. I hope you're doing okay. I really do wish you the best, Danny. You deserved better than me. I stared at the message for a long time, then deleted it without responding. Some chapters needed to end without a final goodbye. I drove the Charger back to the shop, parked it in the bay, and got back to work. Life went on. It had to. October 15th arrived faster than I expected. The fall gala. The event Charlotte had been so anxious about, the one she hadn't wanted me attending. Now she was gone, Mark was banned, and I was expected to show up as one of Crown Ridge's co-owners. Richard had been calling all week, insisting I attend. You need to show your face. Let people see you've moved on. Plus, we're announcing the spa expansion. You should be there for that. Fine, but I'm not staying long. Fair enough. Just make an appearance. So there I was on October 15th, wearing another expensive suit, charcoal gray this time, driving to Crown Ridge for the third time in as many months. The parking lot was packed with luxury vehicles, and I could hear music drifting from the clubhouse as I walked up the front steps. The place had been transformed. White lights everywhere, tables draped in cream linens, flowers in crystal vases, a string quartet playing Vivaldi in the corner. Members milled about in evening gowns and tuxedos, champagne flutes in hand, laughing and mingling like they didn't have a care in the world. I spotted Richard immediately. He waved me over. Danny, you made it! Said I would. You look good. How are you feeling? Fine. Ready to get this over with. It won't be that bad. Just smile, shake some hands, make small talk. You're a natural at this. I'm a mechanic. I'm not a natural at anything involving small talk. Richard laughed. Trust me, you're doing better than you think. The evening passed in a blur of introductions and conversations. James Whitmore cornered me to talk about golf. Patricia Chen wanted to discuss the spa expansion timeline. Robert Sullivan pitched an idea for a new tennis pavilion. Everyone was friendly, welcoming, treating me like I'd always been part of their world. It felt surreal. Around 9 o'clock, Richard took the microphone and called for everyone's attention. Ladies and gentlemen, if I could have a moment, I have some exciting announcements to make. The room quieted down. First, I want to thank everyone for attending tonight's fall gala. As always, your support makes Crown Ridge what it is, the finest country club in New England. Polite applause. Second, I'm thrilled to announce that we've approved funding for a major expansion project. Starting next month, we'll be building a state-of-the-art spa facility, complete with massage therapy rooms, facial treatment areas, a sauna, steam room, and relaxation lounge. Excited murmurs rippled through the crowd. This expansion is possible thanks to the generosity of our co-owner Danny Pierce, who has personally committed $2 million to the project. Everyone turned to look at me. I raised my glass awkwardly. "Danny, would you like to say a few words?" Richard asked. I hadn't prepared anything, hadn't expected to speak, but everyone was watching, so I walked up to the microphone. "Thanks, Richard. I'll keep this brief. When my father built Crown Ridge 43 years ago, he had a vision. He wanted to create a place where people could come together, relax, and enjoy life. He poured his heart into every detail of this club. And I'm honored to continue that legacy by investing in improvements that make Crown Ridge even better. The spa expansion is just the beginning. We have big plans for this place, and I hope you're all as excited as I am about the future." I stepped back, and the room erupted in applause. Richard clapped me on the shoulder. "Well done. Was that okay?" "Better than okay. You sounded like you actually care about this place." "I do care. It's my father's legacy." "Then you're in the right place." The rest of the evening passed pleasantly. I made small talk, drank champagne that actually was Cristal this time, and genuinely enjoyed myself. For the first time in months, I felt like I was exactly where I was supposed to be. Around 10:30, I was standing by the bar when a woman approached me. She was maybe early 30s, brunette, wearing a simple blue dress that wasn't trying too hard to impress. "You're Danny Pierce," she said. "Guilty." "I'm Sarah Mitchell. I'm not a member here. I'm James Whitmore's niece. He brought me as his +1. Nice to meet you. I heard your speech about your father and his vision for this place. It was really moving. Thanks. I meant every word. I believe you." She smiled. "James talks about your father all the time, says he was one of the best men he ever knew." "He was. I miss him every day. I lost my father last year, cancer. It's brutal, isn't it? Losing a parent." "Yeah, it really is." We stood there in comfortable silence for a moment, two strangers bonded by shared grief. "So," Sarah said eventually, "mechanic and secret millionaire, that's quite a combination." I laughed. "The mechanic part is what I actually care about. The millionaire part is just an accident of birth." "That's refreshing. Most wealthy people I meet can't shut up about their money." "I'd rather talk about cars." "What kind of cars do you work on?" "Classic American muscle. Mustangs, Camaros, Chargers, that sort of thing. Restoration work mostly." "That sounds amazing. I don't know anything about cars, but I can appreciate good craftsmanship." "What do you do?" "I teach high school history. Not nearly as glamorous as restoring vintage cars, but I love it. Teaching's important work. So is fixing things." She looked at me with intelligent green eyes. "Can I ask you a personal question?" "Sure. Are you doing okay? I heard about what happened with your wife. James mentioned it. I know that's probably weird to bring up, but I wanted to make sure you're all right." "I'm doing better than I was. Some days are harder than others, but I'm managing." "Good. Because honestly, from what James told me, she didn't deserve you." "That's generous of you to say, but you don't even know me." "True. But I know that you honored your father by investing in his legacy. I know that you care more about craftsmanship than status. And I know that you're standing here having a genuine conversation with a stranger instead of working the room like every other wealthy person here. That tells me you're a good person. Or maybe I'm just bad at networking." She laughed. "Either way, I like you. I like you too." We talked for another hour about teaching and cars and life and everything in between. Sarah was funny and smart and real in a way that reminded me of who I used to be before Charlotte, before the anger, before everything got so complicated. When the gala finally ended around midnight, Sarah gave me her phone number. "Call me sometime, maybe you could show me your shop. I'd love to see what you do." "I'd like that." "Good. Then it's a date. Or not a date. Whatever you're comfortable with. Let's start with not a date and see where it goes." Perfect. I drove home that night feeling something I hadn't felt in a very long time: hope. Not for another relationship necessarily, but for the future. For possibility. For the chance to start over and do things right this time. I called Sarah the following Tuesday. We met at a coffee shop downtown, nothing fancy, just two people getting to know each other. She told me about her students, about the challenges of teaching American history to teenagers who couldn't put down their phones. I told her about the 1970 Dodge Charger I'd just finished restoring. "Can I see it?" she asked. "The Charger. It's already been delivered to the owner, but I have other projects at the shop. You want to come by sometime?" "How about now?" "Really? Why not, unless you're busy." "I'm never too busy for cars." We drove separately to Pierce Automotive Restoration. Sarah pulled up in a beat-up Honda Civic that had to be at least 15 years old, and I found myself smiling. No pretension, no luxury vehicle to impress people. Just a reliable car that got her from point A to point B. "Nice ride," I said. "It's a piece of crap, but it runs, mostly. Want me to take a look at it? Would you?" "Pop the hood." She did, and I spent 20 minutes diagnosing a minor issue with her alternator. "You need to replace this soon." "How much will that cost?" "For you? Nothing. I'll do it for free." "Danny, I can't ask you to—" "You're not asking, I'm offering. Come back Saturday morning and I'll have it fixed by noon." "You're too nice. I'm a mechanic. Fixing things is what I do." I showed her around the shop, walked her through the various projects we had going: a 1968 Pontiac GTO that needed engine work, a 1971 Plymouth Barracuda with a damaged frame, a 1969 Ford Mustang Boss 429 that looked like it had been sitting in a swamp for 20 years. "That one's a disaster," I said, pointing to the Mustang. "Owner's daughter inherited it from her father. It's been in storage for 15 years. We're basically rebuilding it from scratch." "How long will that take?" 6 to 8 months, probably, maybe longer." "And she's willing to wait that long?" "When it comes to classic cars, quality takes time, can't rush perfection." Sarah ran her hand along the Mustang's rusted hood. "There's something beautiful about this, taking something broken and making it whole again. That's exactly how I see it. Most people just see junk. I see potential. That's a good way to look at life, too." "Yeah?" "Yeah. Sometimes things fall apart. Sometimes they get damaged or neglected or left to rust. But that doesn't mean they can't be restored. Doesn't mean they can't be beautiful again." I looked at her, and something clicked. She wasn't just talking about cars. "Are we still talking about the Mustang?" I asked. Maybe. Maybe not. We stood there in comfortable silence, surrounded by half-finished projects and the smell of motor oil and metal, and I felt something I hadn't felt since before Charlotte. Connection, real, genuine connection with another human being. "Sarah," I said, "would you want to have dinner with me, like an actual date this time?" She smiled. "I thought you'd never ask." That dinner turned into another dinner, which turned into regular phone calls, which turned into Sarah spending Saturday mornings at the shop while I worked on cars and she graded papers. It was easy, comfortable. Nothing like the complicated mess my marriage to Charlotte had been. Sarah didn't care that I was wealthy, didn't care that I owned half of Crown Ridge. She liked me for who I was, the mechanic with grease under his fingernails who talked too much about carburetors and compression ratios. And I liked her for who she was. the teacher who got genuinely excited about the American Revolution and could quote Hamilton the musical from memory. By November, we were officially dating. By December, I'd met her mother and 2 younger brothers. By January, she had a toothbrush at my condo, and I had a spare key to her apartment. It was healthy. Normal. Everything my relationship with Charlotte hadn't been. The Mustang restoration was going well, too. Jake and I had replaced the entire engine, rebuilt the transmission, fixed the frame damage, and started on the bodywork. The car was slowly coming back to life, piece by piece, bolt by bolt.